Currently, or throughout your life, you have surely felt intense connections with certain people. Those gazes that seem to say it all, those emotions that arose without explanation, that feeling that someone was meant for you. But tell me something. What happens when that connection is not mutual? What happens when, despite everything you feel, the other person doesn't choose you in the same way? Here is the truth that few accept. The most important connection is not the one you have with someone else, but the one you have with yourself. And today, I will tell you something that will completely change the way you see love. Because what you are about to hear, no one has told you before in this way. When you truly love yourself, when you value yourself, when you stop looking outside for what has always been inside you, the right people come effortlessly, the wrong ones disappear on their own, and for the first time, you no longer need someone to choose you, because you have already chosen yourself. Stay until the end. At the end, I will ask you to comment something specific, because this video will not only change your perspective, it will change your entire life, your whole life. You have been led to believe that love comes from the outside, that to feel complete you need to find someone else, that happiness lies in a relationship, in being chosen, in receiving external validation. But what if I told you that all of that is an illusion? That you don't need someone else to value you in order to feel valuable? That love is not something you lack, but something that is already within you? That the quality of your relationships does not depend on others, but on how much you love yourself? Carl Jung said that what you do not make conscious will manifest in your life as fate. And if you are not aware of your worth, you will keep attracting people who reflect that lack of self-love. This is why many end up in relationships where they do not feel valued, where they give too much and receive too little, where the fear of losing is stronger than the desire to stay. But here is the truth. What you accept in your relationships is a reflection of how you treat yourself. If you don't love yourself, you will accept crumbs. If you don't value yourself, you will attract people who won't either. If you believe you don't deserve more, you will settle for less. But when you love yourself enough, something inside you changes. Your energy shifts, your standards rise, and effortlessly, without searching, without begging, you begin to attract people who truly match that value. I want to share something with you, the reflection of self-love in a relationship. Imagine someone who has spent years in relationships that don't make them happy. They've become used to giving everything, trying to fit in, adapting to what the other person wants, believing that if they show enough love, sooner or later they will be loved the same way. But no matter how much they do, they always end up feeling empty. And then, after yet another disappointment, they ask themselves, why does this always happen to me? But here's the detail. They never asked themselves if they were giving themselves the love they expected to receive. They never stopped to think about how they spoke to themselves, how they treated themselves, how little they put themselves first. Because when you don't value yourself, you accept anything. And when you believe that love comes from the outside, you keep chasing it in people who can't give it to you. But one day, everything changes. This person decides to do something different. They decide to start giving themselves the love they always searched for in others. They choose to treat themselves with respect, with patience, with admiration. They decide to set boundaries, to stop accepting less than they deserve. And suddenly, the people who were previously in their life start to drift away. But it's not because something bad is happening. It's because their energy is no longer aligned with those who don't know how to value them. And then, the most incredible thing happens. They start attracting new people, people who respect their time, people who value their presence, people who don't need to be convinced to stay. Because self-love not only changes how you feel about yourself, it changes the way the world treats you. The most important relationship in your life is the one you have with yourself. If you want to know what your future relationships will be like, look at the relationship you have with yourself today. How do you speak to yourself when you make a mistake? How do you treat yourself when you are hurting? Do you give yourself the love you expect to receive from others? Because you cannot ask someone to value you if you don't do it yourself. You can't demand respect if you keep allowing less. You can't attract healthy love if you keep acting from need and emptiness. Carl Jung taught us that the people who enter our lives are a reflection of our inner world. If you want to attract a strong love, you must first be strong within yourself. If you want to receive love, you must first learn to give it to yourself. If you want to build a healthy relationship, you must first heal the relationship you have with yourself. When you love yourself enough, you don't have to chase anyone. You don't have to convince anyone that you are valuable. You don't have to settle for crumbs, because the right person will arrive when your energy is strong enough to recognize them. And this is where we get to the most important part. Your relationships always reflect the way you treat yourself. So in the next point, I'll show you how this principle manifests in every connection you have in your life, and how you can use it to attract exactly the love you deserve. How your relationships reflect the way you treat yourself. Look at the people who have passed through your life. Look at the relationships you've built. Look at how they have treated you, how they have loved you, how they have valued you. Because here is the truth that few are willing to accept. Every relationship in your life has been a reflection of the relationship you have with yourself. If you've been ignored, if you've been underestimated, if you've been given less than you deserve, ask yourself, when did you start treating yourself the same way? This is not about blaming yourself or thinking you deserve the bad things you experienced. It's about understanding that what we accept from the world is an extension of what we believe we deserve. When you don't value yourself, you unconsciously give others permission not to value you either. When you speak harshly to yourself, you end up surrounded by people who also speak harshly to you. When you treat yourself with indifference, you attract relationships that mirror that same lack of care. But when you learn to treat yourself with love, the world responds in the same way. Let me tell you something. Imagine someone who, their whole life, has felt that they are not enough. Every time they do something well, they downplay it. Every time they receive a compliment, they brush it off with a nervous laugh. Every time someone mistreats them, they justify it. Maybe it was my fault. Maybe I deserve this. Maybe that's just how love is. And time passes, and every relationship they have reinforces the same story. People only seek them out when they need something. Partners who don't value them, but whom they desperately try to hold on to. Relationships where they constantly feel they have to prove they are enough. Until one day, they stop and ask themselves, why do I always attract the same thing? And for the first time, instead of looking outward, they look inward. They realize that their whole life, they've been trying to get from others a love they have never given themselves. That they have accepted less because they never learned to demand more. That they have searched for external validation because they haven't learned to validate themselves. So they decide to do something different. They decide to start speaking to themselves with love, to put themselves first, to stop justifying the faults of others. They decide to respect themselves so much that anyone who is not up to their level simply drifts away on their own. And something incredible happens. The people who used to surround them begin to change. Those who don't know how to love them disappear. Those who do value them draw closer. Because when you change the way you treat yourself, the world has no choice but to adjust. The love you give to yourself defines the love you receive. The people who enter your life are mirrors. They reflect what you believe you deserve. They reflect the wounds you haven't healed. They reflect the relationship you have with yourself. If you attract people who make you feel invisible, ask yourself when you started ignoring yourself. If you are surrounded by people who criticize you, ask yourself how you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. If you've gotten used to accepting less than you truly desire, ask yourself when you decided you didn't deserve more. The answer is always within you. Because when you change the way you treat yourself, you change what you are willing to accept from others. When you start speaking to yourself with love, you no longer tolerate hurtful words. When you decide to respect yourself, relationships that do not reflect that respect no longer have space in your life. How to transform your emotional reflection. If you want to know what kind of love you will receive in your life, observe the love you give to yourself. If you want to attract people who respect you, start by respecting yourself. If you want to be surrounded by people who value your time, stop giving it away to those who don't deserve it. If you want to live deep and authentic relationships, start by refusing to accept superficial connections. Carl Jung used to say that what we deny within ourselves will appear manifested outside. If you keep repeating the same patterns in your relationships, it means there is still something inside you that remains unhealed. But here's the good news. You have the power to change that reality. You cannot change the past, but you can change the way you decide to live the present. You cannot erase the relationships that have hurt you, but you can learn from them so you don't repeat the same story. You cannot force anyone to treat you with love, but you can choose to surround yourself with those who know how to. Because the love you have been searching for outside has always been within you. And in the next part, I will show you how your own energy defines the people you attract and how you can use it to manifest relationships aligned with your true value. The energy you project defines who you attract. Have you noticed how some people seem to attract healthy relationships, deep connections, and respect effortlessly, while others keep repeating the same patterns of abandonment, indifference, and lack of reciprocity? This is no coincidence, it's energy. Carl Jung said that what we deny within ourselves will manifest in the outside world, meaning what is inside you, what you believe about love, about yourself, about what you deserve, is exactly what you will inevitably attract into your life. It doesn't matter how much you try to change what's outside. If inside you are still carrying fears, emptiness, and unhealed wounds, you will continue attracting relationships that reflect exactly that. But when you start working on your energy, everything changes. Let me tell you something. Imagine two people who are both searching for love. The first person is desperate to find someone, feeling incomplete and afraid of being alone. Every time they meet someone, they try to fit in, doing whatever is necessary to be chosen, regardless of whether it truly makes them happy. Their energy is one of lack, neediness, and insecurity. As a result, they attract people who sense that lack of self-love and take advantage of it. People who place them second, who are not truly committed, who disappear at the slightest inconvenience. The second person, on the other hand, has worked on themselves. They have learned to enjoy their own company, to stop begging for love because they no longer need it from the outside. They have found it within. And when they meet someone, they don't try to fit in. They simply are. Their energy is one of abundance, confidence, and wholeness. As a result, they attract people who are on the same frequency, people who respect them, who want to be by their side, not because they need them, but because their presence is valuable. People who don't play games because their energy leaves no room for mediocre relationships. Do you see the difference? The first person projects fear of being alone and attracts relationships that reinforce that fear. The second person projects self-love and attracts relationships that reflect that love. It's not magic, it's the law of emotional attraction. Your energy is a filter for the people who come into your life. Every person who enters your life does so because in some way, they are in tune with your current energy. If you attract people who don't value you, examine whether you have been valuing yourself. If you meet people who make you feel invisible, ask yourself if you've been ignoring your own voice. If you keep repeating relationships where you are pushed aside, reflect on whether you have unconsciously allowed yourself to be an option instead of a priority. Because the people who come into your life are not there by chance. They are mirrors. They show you what you still need to work on. They reflect the beliefs you carry inside, and they teach you through their actions what you really think of yourself. And here's the key. When you change your energy, you change the type of people you attract. When you respect yourself, disrespectful people no longer fit into your life. When you love yourself, people who don't know how to love feel uncomfortable and walk away. When you treat yourself with dignity, those who only seek to take advantage of you simply disappear. Not because you made an external effort, but because your energy is no longer aligned with that type of connection. How to raise your energy to attract conscious relationships. If you want to attract healthy relationships, you first need to become someone who vibrates on that frequency. Instead of seeking validation, start validating yourself. Instead of settling for crumbs, demand what you truly deserve. Instead of staying in relationships out of fear of loneliness, learn to enjoy your own company. Because the energy you project is the signal you send to the world about what you are willing to accept. If you want to attract real love, you must first be the kind of person who knows how to receive it. If you want to attract respect, you must first learn to respect yourself. If you want deep relationships, you must first connect deeply with yourself. Because love is not something you search for. It is something you attract when your energy is aligned with what you truly deserve. And next, I will tell you why love is never something you chase. It comes to you when you have learned to let go of the need to find it. Stop chasing and start attracting. We live in a world where we've been taught that love is something to search for. That if you don't have it, you must go out and find it. That if you're not with someone, you're somehow incomplete. We've been taught that we have to make an effort, that we have to do something special to be chosen. That if we say the right things, act the right way, or are attractive enough, someone will finally decide to love us. But here is the truth. No one tells you. Real love is not something you chase. Because when you chase, you are telling the universe that you lack something. When you chase, you place yourself in the position of someone who needs to be chosen. When you chase, you focus so much on attracting someone else that you forget about yourself. Carl Jung used to say, "What you resist persists." And the same is true for love. The more you search for it from a place of lack, the more it moves away from you. Imagine this. Think of someone who is desperate to find love. Every time they meet someone, their mind goes into alert mode. Will they like me? How should I act so they won't leave? What can I do to be chosen? Without realizing it, they start shaping themselves according to the other person's expectations. They hold back from saying what they really want, fearing that being authentic might cost them the relationship. They begin to give too much just to make the relationship work. The result? That energy of neediness is felt. And instead of attracting genuine love, it creates rejection. Because no one wants to feel responsible for filling the emptiness of another. Because love doesn't work when it comes from desperation. Because when someone senses that you need too much from them, their instinct is to walk away. Now imagine someone else, someone who doesn't seek, who doesn't chase, who simply lives their life fully. They are not obsessed with finding a partner. They are not trying to fit into anyone else's expectations. They are not worried about whether someone stays or leaves. And without even realizing it, they attract. Because their energy is different. Because they don't project neediness, but confidence. Because their presence is magnetic. Not because they try to impress, but because they simply feel good about themselves. Real love arrives when you stop searching for it. When you stop trying to make it work with the wrong person. When you realize you don't need to chase anything because what is meant for you will always find its way. The paradox of letting go. What you let go of comes to you. The problem many people have is believing they need to hold on tightly to someone so they don't leave. They think that if they stop trying so hard, they will lose them. That if they stop putting in constant effort, the other person will walk away. That if they don't keep reminding others how valuable they are, they will never be chosen. But the real power is not in holding on. The real power is in letting go and trusting. Because when you value yourself enough not to chase, you naturally attract people who know how to value too. When you stop worrying about whether someone stays or leaves, your energy becomes irresistible. When you understand that your life is already complete with or without a partner, the right people appear effortlessly. Because love is not something you beg for. Love arrives when you have first learned to love yourself, how to shift your energy from chaser to magnet. If you feel like you are always the one who gives more, tries harder and fights more in your relationships, it's time to change your approach. Stop trying to convince others of your worth and start seeing it for yourself. Stop attaching yourself to people who are unsure about you. Stop making unnecessary efforts to hold on to someone who is not aligned with your energy. Because what is real does not need to be forced. What is meant for you flows without pressure. What is on your same frequency comes to you without you having to chase it. And this doesn't apply only to love. The best opportunities come when you are not anxiously searching for them. The most meaningful connections appear when you are already fine with yourself. The healthiest relationships are built when there is no need to force them. It's like holding a handful of sand. If you squeeze it tightly, it slips through your fingers. But if you simply let it rest in your palm, it stays. Love is the same. You don't need to cling to it. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. You don't need to do more than just be yourself to be chosen. Because when you learn to let go, when you learn to trust, the right love will find you. And in the next point, I will tell you how to build a conscious and balanced relationship, where love is not a battle, but harmony. Building a conscious and balanced relationship. Love should not feel like a constant battle. It should not be a struggle where you have to prove your worth, where you have to convince someone to stay, where you have to give more than what the other person is willing to offer. Because real love is not sacrifice, it is balance. It is not about losing yourself in the other person, but about finding yourself within the relationship. It is not about giving until you are drained, but about sharing from a place of abundance. It is not about adapting yourself to what the other wants, but about building something together where both can grow. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And this applies to love more than anything else. If you enter a relationship without awareness, you will repeat the same mistakes over and over. If you are not conscious of your emotional patterns, you will attract the same type of connection, just disguised in a different person. If you don't know what you really want, you will accept whatever comes your way, even if it's not the best for you. But when you build a relationship consciously, everything changes. Imagine this. Two people enter a relationship. The first comes with wounds from the past, with fears, with the belief that love is suffering, that you have to fight for it, that if it doesn't hurt, it isn't real. The second has worked on themselves. They know that love is not sacrifice, but reciprocity. They are not looking to fill a void because they have already learned to be happy on their own. They don't need to convince anyone of their worth because they already know it perfectly. From the very beginning, their energies are different. The first seeks stability from the other person, needs external security, and is afraid of change within the relationship. The second flows without fear, without anxiety, without the need to control the future. Which of these two people do you think will build a balanced relationship? Here is the key. You cannot build a healthy relationship if you are carrying the chains of the past. If you hold on to unhealed fears, you will project them onto your partner. If you enter a relationship believing that love is a struggle, you will attract conflict. If you haven't learned to love yourself, you will depend on the other person to do it for you. That's why before building a conscious relationship, you must first become a conscious person. Love is not about finding someone to complete you. We've been sold the idea that a partner will make us happy, that someone else's love is what we are missing, that when we find the right person, everything in our life will finally make sense. But the truth is, if you are looking for someone to fill your emptiness, sooner or later that emptiness will show up again. Love is not about finding someone to complete you, but about sharing with someone from a place of fullness. It is about two people who are already happy on their own, but choose to walk together. It is about love that does not come from need, but from choice. It is about understanding that the right person is not someone who comes to save you, but someone who comes to add to your life without taking anything away. The foundations of a balanced relationship. If you want to build a conscious relationship, you need three things. 1. Self-knowledge. You cannot expect someone else to understand you if you don't understand yourself. Knowing what you want, what you need, what your boundaries are, and what kind of love you are willing to accept is essential. 2. Emotional independence. Love is not about depending on the other to feel good. It is about sharing from a place of freedom, without fear, without attachment, without anxiety. 3. Authentic communication. A conscious relationship is based on transparency, on speaking the truth, on not hiding what you feel out of fear of making the other uncomfortable. When these three elements are present, the relationship flows effortlessly. There are no manipulation games, no constant fear of being left, no need to control or change the other person. Because when love is real, it feels easy, it feels light, it feels like a space where you can be completely yourself. The love you deserve begins within. If you want to build a balanced relationship, first ask yourself, am I entering this relationship from fullness or from need? Am I expecting the other person to make me happy? Or do I already know how to do it for myself? Am I ready to share consciously? Or am I still repeating the same unconscious patterns? Because the love you build on the outside will always be a reflection of the love you have built within. And when you truly love yourself, when you value yourself, when you have learned to be at peace with yourself, you not only attract a different kind of love, you sustain it, enjoy it, and build it consciously. Because you are no longer looking for someone to complete you. You are looking for someone to grow with. The love you give comes back to you. How to attract relationships from abundance. Everything in life is a reflection of what you project. The words you speak, the energy you transmit, the way you treat others. It all comes back to you, one way or another. And in love, this is even more powerful. If you give love from emptiness, you will attract relationships full of emptiness. If you give love from need, you will attract unstable connections. If you give love expecting something in return, you will always feel empty. But when you give love from fullness, without fear, without expectations, without anxiety, you attract people who also know how to love in the same way. Carl Jung used to say, "What you deny within yourself will show up on the outside." And if within you there is fear, scarcity, or lack of self-love, that is exactly what you will see reflected in your relationships. But when you begin to love from a place of abundance, when you give without expecting, when you become the source of love in your own life, something incredible happens. The right people arrive, genuine connections strengthen, and what once seemed exhausting now flows effortlessly. Imagine this. Think of someone who constantly feels that love is unfair. They say things like, "I always give too much and get nothing in return. Why do I always end up with the wrong people? It seems like love never works for me." In their attempt to find a relationship, they keep repeating the same patterns. They give expecting to receive. They try too hard to be accepted. They hold on tightly, afraid of losing. What they don't realize is that they are acting from a place of scarcity, from the fear of not being enough, from the belief that love is something they have to beg for, from the idea that if they don't try twice as hard, they will be abandoned. Now imagine another person, someone who has learned to love themselves so much that they don't need others to validate them, who gives love without fear, without manipulation, without expecting anything in return, who understands that love is not a currency of exchange, but a natural extension of who they are. That person doesn't need to chase anyone because their energy is different. They are not looking to be chosen. They already know they are enough. They don't give love from emptiness, but from abundance. And as a result, they attract exactly the same kind of love. People who value them without them having to ask for it. Connections where effort is mutual. Relationships where love is not a battle, but a natural flow. The love you give is the love you receive. Here's the key. Everything you give to the world comes back to you in some way. If you give love from fear, you will receive relationships full of uncertainty. If you give love from need, you will attract people who cannot give you stability. If you give love without first giving it to yourself, you will only repeat the cycle of emotional emptiness. But when you give love from trust, when you love without fear of losing, when you don't need anyone to feel complete, everything changes. The relationships that once seemed out of reach now come effortlessly. The people who once did not value you disappear from your life, and you begin to experience love in a completely different way. Because you no longer seek it, you no longer chase it, you no longer need it. You simply are love. And when you become love, the right love finds you effortlessly. The love you receive will always be a reflection of the love you give to yourself. If you have spent your life chasing people who don't value you, settling for less than you deserve, or feeling like you need to be chosen to feel complete, it's time to change the story. You did not come to this world to beg for love. You did not come to convince anyone of your worth. You did not come to wait for someone else to make you feel enough. Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." And today is the time to awaken. Because real love is not found outside. It starts within you. When you treat yourself with respect, the world responds with respect. When you value yourself, the right people show up without you having to chase them. When you love yourself enough, you only accept relationships that reflect that same love. So tell me, will you keep waiting for someone to give you what you can already give yourself? Will you keep repeating the same patterns? Or will you finally choose yourself? The love you are looking for is already within you. And when you truly discover it, your energy changes, your life changes, and the kind of people you attract changes too. If you've made it this far, I want to know. Comment below. I choose myself, and I am going to love myself. Show yourself that this is the moment when you decide to love yourself unconditionally. Leave a like on this video if it resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe so we can keep growing together on this path of transformation. See you in the next video. And remember, the love you are looking for on the outside always starts within you.